Chapter 11. Over the River and Through the Woods. Gaheris crested a low hillock, panting heavily to see the stars and moon glinting off of water below him. He'd come to the River Arkan, though he did not know its name. He passed into a farmstead adjoining the river, the flickering light of a dying fire visible through the shutters of the house, but no sign of movement. Best avoid it, he thought. Rousing the farmers to ask for help would only attract attention. The river at this point was not so large as it was further downstream after joining its tributaries from the Glon Bog, but it was still a formidable flow. Gaheris paused at the bank for a moment, catching his breath. The far bank was wooded, but the problem was getting there. Undecided, Gaheris started walking slowly upstream, trying to catch his breath, listening all the while for signs of pursuit through the tall grass lining the river. The sound of crickets filled his ears as he grappled with how or whether to cross. A rustling sound in the wheat stalks startled him into alertness. His knife came out as he spun to see a deer take fright and bound off through the field. He started to breathe a sigh of relief when he saw something else. The light of Selune illuminated the dim outline of 3 men moving down the road, obviously trying to remain quiet. They didn't seem to have seen him yet, so he dropped low in the stalks. He couldn't identify them from this distance in the moonlight, but he had little doubt who they might be. He waited for what seemed like an eternity before looking back up again, seeing no sign of his pursuers. But if they had chased him this far, they weren't about to stop looking. If they were on this side of the river, he wanted to be on the other. The question was how to cross. He was a poor swimmer. He began creeping towards the riverbank, staying low. Slipping through the reeds, he barely suppressed a shout of alarm when he went into the mud and water up to his calf, where the water unexpectedly cut out from the river's flow, concealed by the vegetation. Disgust at his error quickly faded as he realized what he'd found. The pool was artificial, clear from the partial dam on the far side, and in it was a pair of boats, a canoe pulled up on shore and a larger rowboat tied to a waterside tree, oars and a paddle sitting inside. Grinning at his luck, he started to push the canoe into the water. He was interrupted by furious barking coming from the direction of the farmhouse. "Oh, Bashaba's brats," he cursed under his breath. Lights flared in the farmhouse as he jumped into the canoe, barely managing to avoid tipping it. Wouldn't do to be followed, he thought, taking the time to cut the line securing the rowboat before seizing the paddle and awkwardly making for the main channel.
Nikos, what is it?
"Well, I don't know, Jess, but I aim to find out," responded the farmer as he rolled out of their bed to reach for the spear on the wall. "Get your crossbow. Timothy, get out of bed! Something's riling the dogs!" he hollered up at his son as he pulled the leather sheath off of the spearhead. The dogs kept carrying on, pawing at the door. He strode over to it as his wife put her foot in the stirrup of her weapon to draw it back and threw it open. "King, France, get 'em!" The dogs tore out of the doorway, barking like mad as they made for the river. Strange, Nikos thought as he followed, clutching the spear in both hands. It didn't take him long to find out what the problem was, though, as he saw his boat drifting away downstream, and his son's canoe being paddled across the river by someone he couldn't make out in the moonlight. "Stop, thief! Jess, get out here with that pea shooter!" "Typical," Gaheris grumbled as he leaned harder into the paddle. Just then, the dog's barking changed timbre, and he heard a blood-curdling shriek from the shore he'd just left. Giselle placed the crossbow bolt in the weapon's groove and rushed out the door, her nightgown flowing in the breeze as her son Timothy followed hot on her heels with a heavy cudgel and a torch.
"I'm coming, husband!"
Just then, King jerked his head around and started barking more frantically as he ran back towards the barn and road, Franz following quick behind. All 3 turned to see what had gotten the animal's attention when King let out a loud yelp and fell mid-stride, tumbling into the grass with a bolt jutting from his throat. Franz surged forward before skidding to a stop and retreating, whining with his tail between his legs as the silhouettes of 3 men emerged from the shadow of the barn. "Evening, folks," drawled Marcus Ravenlock as he swaggered forward, Jenkin recocking his crossbow behind him as their companion stopped and stood motionless, regarding the farmers. "We're looking for a kid who might have come through here and heard you yelling about thieves. Seen a redhead?" "You shot my dog!" screamed Tim in response, rushing forward, furiously raising his club. Marcus shrugged, almost casually parried the blow with one hand, and rammed his other dirk into the young man's side. His mother let out a wordless shriek and went pale, but still took her shot. Marcus grunted as she struck true on his right arm, the haft of the bolt piercing all the way through his bicep. "You'll pay for that, bitch," he snarled as he stalked forward, Happy Gorinder's agent moving laterally to deal with Nikos as he rushed toward them, spear lowered. Jenkins coolly loaded his weapon and leveled it at the farmer's son as he tried to rise from the ground, clutching his side. Gaheris had seen enough in the guttering torchlight. Every instinct screamed at him to try to slip away unnoticed, but he knew with certainty they had to do something. "Hey, masks! Leave him alone! It's me you want!" He regretted it almost instantly as his shout echoed across the water, but it had the desired effect. All three looked up. Nikos didn't care about the boat thief anymore, not with his son bleeding on the ground. He charged down the closest of them, a hooded figure who was advancing toward him at a leisurely pace. He heard the shout echoing across the water, but didn't care. It seemed that his attackers did, though, so much the better. He was almost on his target, spear aimed center mass, when the hooded figure looked back at the danger bearing down and swept off his hood in response. Nikos wasn't sure what he was looking at, but the glance terrified him to his core, so much so that he halted and dropped his spear as the figure picked up his pace, not even breaking stride as he walked past and ignored the stunned peasant. Jenkins changed his target too, moving to get a better angle and taking a shot. This time, he didn't miss. Gaheris almost made the far shore. The current had taken him some distance downstream as he'd crossed, but not far enough to save him from the barbed bolt that pinned his left arm just outside the shoulder joint. He cried out as paddling suddenly became extremely painful, but managed one last heave to ram the canoe into the reeds of the far bank. He stumbled forward to try and seek shelter, gritting his teeth as tears streamed down his face. "Got him," said Jenkins in satisfaction as he pulled back on the cocking lever again. He looked over at his partner as he severed the woman's crossbow string and slammed her in the jaw with his dagger's hilt. "Marcus, leave her, we don't have time." "He's right, Ravenlock," said the assassin as he turned back to Nikos. "Where's the nearest crossing?" "I'm not giving you nothing, murderer," the farmer snarled back as Marcus gave his wife a backhanded slap that sent her sprawling in the dirt before turning back towards his colleagues. "Well, you're certainly right about that. You will not give us nothing," said the masked agent, in the first sign of humor since the two enforcers had met him, before seizing the farmer by his nightshirt. "Where is the crossing?" Nikos was about to spit on him in reply when his wife interrupted from where she lay on the ground.
Please, I'll tell you, just don't hurt him and let me tend my son,
she begged. "Giselle, don't give them what they want," Nikos began before she cut him off.
We don't owe whoever they're after a damn thing, Nikos. He stole our boats and brought these monsters to us. Please, let me save our son.
"Agreed," said the leader of the masks, releasing the man and turning to her. "Tell us where we can cross the river and you get to live." Nikos glowered as she answered.
There's a ford about half a mile upstream. We use it for the cattle, but it's the fastest way across here without boats.
"Well, thank you kindly, ma'am," said Ravenlock, a sarcastic tone in his voice as he tore out her crossbow bolt and threw it in her direction as he reached for another potion. "We'll get a move on, then." He started moving upstream, taking a moment to kick Timothy as he passed. The assassin rushed him as the boy groaned and his parents cried out in alarm, Giselle rushing forward, heedless of the danger. Marcus felt a powerful grip at the back of his neck slam him into the barn wall just as he reached it. "A deal's a deal, Ravenlock. Never do that again, it's bad for business," hissed the agent in his ear. All right, Marcus said in a panic as he felt the iron grip start to tighten. "Apologize to the lady." The enforcer turned as the grip released. "What for? She shot me. And then we made a deal. Do it." "Fine. Sorry about the kid," he called back. "It'll do," said the assassin as the parents ignored him and started trying to stanch the flow of blood. "But we'll make it meaningful." "Hey!" cried Marcus as the agent seized one of his last potion bottles from his belt and threw it at the farmers. "That's what breaking a deal costs you. Be glad it doesn't cost more. Move," he ordered. "Give that to him. It'll cure what ails," he called back at their victims, chuckling slightly to himself. Marcus glowered as he and Jenkins followed him off into the night, seeking the ford. Gaheris finished binding the wound with a strip of cloth he'd cut from his shirt. He didn't dare try to rip out the bolt, so it still jutted through his arm with the bandages wrapped around it as he willed himself to move through the woods. He knew he didn't have much time. If the mask didn't find a way to cross and finish the job, the wound might. It seemed to him that he spent hours trying to cut a straight path away from the river in those woods, but he had no real way of tracking time except to see pre-dawn light in the east when he finally found the edge of the woodlands. Lightheaded from blood loss, he began moving toward a building he could see in the distance across the Symbian plain. The ford was easy enough to find, and the three enforcers waded across the Arkin in water up to their calves. A cattle path cut through the woods on the far side for only a short distance before emerging onto the plain. Bad for business, Marcus grumbled under his breath to Jenkin as their leader pushed forward. We ain't gonna have no business with them, what's the difference? He was right, Marcus, replied his partner in his usual quiet tone. That was unprofessional. It isn't about them, it's about us. What happens to our protection deals if everybody in Westgate thinks we'll back out if we feel like it? That wasn't what Marcus had been expecting, and he made no reply as they followed the tree line west, moving back downstream. His thoughts were interrupted as the eastern horizon began to lighten behind them by Gorinder's agent. There he is! The creature, for that was what Ravenlock began to think of him as with his mannerisms, hissed, pointing at a distant shape moving across the grassland toward a fortified building of some sort in the middle distance, illuminated by the setting moon and pre-dawn light. Don't screw it up this time. Well, what are we waiting for then? Retorted Marcus as he broke into a run. He ain't getting far very fast with that wound. Let's go! The others agreed and broke out into a run as the sun began to rise.